Hi, everybody. Stay with us. We're about ready to go. Welcome in to Bridging Civil Tension here, 21.6 The Net. I'm Kent Jones. He's Phil Wallace. And it's better to bridge civil tension than to burn down your bridge. You never know when you're going to need it. Never know when you're going to need it. And of course, we got to thank our good friends over at Gold Shield for supporting us. So check them out at www.goldshieldtoday.com. Today, on the bridge, a little listener feedback. We can say, right? Now, let me fade that out real nice so it, sounds good. We'll just fade it out right there.
Look at you. Look at you. All right.
There we go. It's the simple things in life that this old guy likes. All right. So the whole intent of this show that Phil and I absolutely love is it gives people a chance to talk about things that nobody really wants to talk about. They want to argue, they want to scream, yell, or ignore, right? And Phil and I are just kind of fed up to hear with stuff that people don't want to have good conversations, and all of a sudden it builds a lot of hate.
Right.
In your community or in America or your nation, wherever you're at. And what we want to say is, listen, Phil, you may have a different opinion than I, or look at it a little differently because of your history.
Right.
And I may look at it a little different because of my history, but I still love you and respect what you're saying because, well, it's okay to differ in opinion, right? And differ in life experience. Right. You've lived places that I haven't. You've been able to have different experiences than myself. Right. As an old white guy, I've had different experiences than you.
A little bit,
right? Yeah, right.
A little bit.
So, we love everybody who joins in and gives us some comments and joins the show, but we also love the people who send us their thoughts of the show afterwards. Right. And that's what it's about. That tells me we're doing our job and kind of stirring the pot a little bit because all the good stuff might fall to the bottom otherwise.
Right.
Okay. And so as we're going through this, Phil and I share a lot of the feedback that we get, and we thought, well, today why don't we address some of that feedback that we get, and open up that dialogue
right.
a little bit, right? And please feel free to join in, feel free to comment, feel free to do whatever is necessary. One of the pieces of feedback that we got is states that this person doesn't believe that America is a racist nation. And I do believe that there are racist people in America, though.
Right.
Okay. So my question, I guess, to you, Phil, is if we talked a little bit about this in the green room. The town that I live in, a small village outside of Chicago, right. Not even 5,000 people in it, right? Is if 90% of the people who live in that village are racist, is that town racist?
I would say yes.
Yeah, most people would.
Most people would say yes.
Right? Well, oh my gosh, right? Okay, so let's take a look at it differently. If 51% of the town is racist, is that town racist?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're still playing with percentages. 20% of the town racist. Is that town racist?
Right. I mean, in towns where that is the case,
horribly racist events have occurred
Yes.
openly in 20% racist towns. So yeah,
Yeah,
Town's
you're
still
still
racist.
tagged as a racist town. So, and here's what I'm saying is, in this little village I'm at, let's say that we had a lynching. Only 20% of the people were there. Only 20% of the people are racist in this town.
Right.
But we had a lynching on the square, and we knew, right?
Right.
Would that town then, even though only 20% of the people, would it be considered a racist town? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Right?
Especially in towns where it's allowed to happen.
Yeah.
The light example I've told before, the story about when we were driving through Jay, Florida, to the junior college, and the police officer told us when we stopped there to get your boys back on the van. I'm not going to be held liable for what the local people do if they catch your boys off this van. Fill up enough gas, get back to Pensacola, get out of town.
Get out of town.
So the local authorities are okay with how the town treats minorities in that town. Even if most of that town isn't racist, which
Right.
according to that officer, everyone's unanimous. But
Right.
if it's then allowed to happen to an extent, I'm as a police officer, I'm not going to be held liable for what happens to your boys.
Right.
And that town is ruled by racism.
Which makes it
A racist
a
town.
racist town. So as we look at America,
Right.
okay, yeah, I mean we've been through a lot of, and I'm one to tell you I'm not racist, right?
Right.
And I'm one to tell you that when we do the national anthem, I still get goosebumps because I love this nation, absolutely love this nation. But for me to deny the history of this nation is turning a blind eye. I mean, that's not being fair, right? Now, are we a racist nation? Yeah. The history proves it.
Right. And even with that, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that it's not even, at this point, it's not even just the history. It's the recent events. It's the current events that continue to happen. That continue to show, maybe we didn't come as far as we thought we did. It's obviously not, water fountains that say whites only and coloreds.
Mm-hmm.
But when certain stuff continues to happen, certain stuff continues to be the way things are ruled, when certain things continue to be allowed without punishment, have we gotten that far?
How much of the media out there controls that narrative?
And we've had this conversation. I could hear from the media all day long, old white bald men are terrible. Old white bald men are terrible. I still love Ken Jones.
Yeah.
I still adorable blonde. Lucy's still the homie. Colette's still the homie. Ashley's still the homie. Right. I'm still friends with the Jones family. So despite what the media says, I have this relationship. So I don't know if we can just always only put it on the media. And if we've had this conversation as well, we can't be selective on then what we put on the media.
Correct.
We can't have it selective. We can't believe how bad things are for minorities just because the media says it, but then believe how bad minorities are when the media reiterates it.
Yeah.
So we can't say, well, that's just hogwash. Blacks aren't treated this way. Mexicans aren't treated this way.
Yeah.
But then all blacks and Hispanics act this way because that's what the news tells me. Pick a standard.
Yeah. Where are you at?
Right.
Yeah. Where are you at? And listen, it doesn't mean that we live in a bad country. It's still the greatest nation in the world.
Right.
But it's okay to say we're not perfect, and we're young. I mean, Gary from Singapore, who tunes in quite often, says, it's interesting because America is such a young country; it's only a couple hundred years old,
right?
And it's such a melting pot that it's interesting now to see how y'all are trying to figure this out. Right. Where a place like Singapore or China has been around for thousands of years.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing. I believe that many of the most racist people are the very people claiming that others are racist against them.
So going back to the feedback from the viewer.
Yeah.
Many of the racist people are the very people claiming that others are racist against them. Do you want to take this one first?
Okay, so and there's not and what I want to help people understand is there's not we're not cutting anything out. So if there was a supporting statement behind that, we would put it out there. We're not trying to manipulate this conversation.
Yeah,
we're reading the comments that came in, right? And so I have a difficult problem with this. I believe that many of the most racist people are the very people claiming others are racist against them. I can see that. Okay, I can see that if you don't open a discussion with a person. I can see the hate from that person who has experienced racism. But listen, that's built up anger. It doesn't mean that they're more racist. I mean, if I have been on the if I have been on the receiving end of a racist act,
right.
I would go, I hate those people. I wouldn't, or I would call them whatever. I would become racist myself because I would have a hard time compartmentalizing and really working with it. So I think it's the hate or the upsettedness, maybe the hurt, that perhaps would lead somebody to say, you're more racist because you are claiming people are racist. It's a tough.
I'm with you.
Right?
It definitely does come from the hurt from experiencing so much racism. When you look at, obviously, my story. I lived in Pensacola, Florida for a long time. Family still lives in Georgia. And you have relatives or neighbors, people who have grown up in the South, right, of higher age, and they talk about being called boy. They talk about how things have happened, and you hear how they don't trust white folks.
Sure.
But it's not a hate for white folks. It's not like a proactive pursuit to bring pain upon white people. It's based off how they've demeaned me my entire life.
Yeah.
I just don't feel safe around that. It's not like proactive. Right. You don't hear about that same old man going into a salon and shooting 8 white people.
Right.
You don't hear about that. I've also, and I think we've addressed this as well, what I've found is when people become racist, the ratio for what tips the scale with whites versus minorities is completely different. What I'll have is one of my white friends may have 2 or 3 bad black encounters, and that's why they're a certain way towards black people.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the kid who went to Crystal Lake South has had dozens, if not hundreds.
Yeah.
Right? And he's not allowed to not trust. He's not allowed to be cautious. And if he says that he's cautious, he's more racist than people who become hateful after 2 or 3 encounters.
So and listen, just because this is who I am, it's like Clayton Bigsby, right? That's a Chappelle skit, right? So it's funny, but that's kind of, I mean, it's brilliant in a way at the same time if you take a look at it, because what is learned, right? And listen, back in the 80s, man, I had a good friend of mine, and there was some heightened. I mean, it was race at that point in Burlington was pretty heightened, and I'm going into gym class, and he calls me over, a good friend of mine, and he breaks my nose. He pop. I mean, he just breaks my nose, right? And I jump back. Now I've known him forever, and of course I'm not a fighter, and I know the tension that's there between blacks and whites at the time, and and he wants to kick my ass. Well, I'm bleeding all over everything because he broke my nose, and I'm like, no. Now we're friends. dude is does a lot for America, you know. But I didn't at that point go, this is a racist thing.
Right.
I'm like, what did I do to piss him off?
Yeah.
To break my nose, right? And came down to it was I said something about his girlfriend.
Right.
Now I was a smart ass. I was a dumb kid, and I probably did. I didn't know he had a girlfriend,
Right.
but had I known it was his girlfriend, I probably would never said anything. Right. So I was like, oh, okay, broke my nose. Now a lot of my friends, and a lot of was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I kind of deserved it.
Right. I provoked it.
So I didn't go on that racist thing. And I think a lot of people. I mean, what's learned? I didn't look at it as a black and white thing, even though that was pretty heavy at the time. I looked at it, boy, I did something to piss him off. What happened? What did I say? What did I do? Right. And hey, we're friends on Facebook. Happy birthdays and all that. I mean, it is what it is, right? Where I know that there are several people, probably still today, who carry a grudge or whatever there, right? Shayna, good morning. How is that different from anyone else not feeling safe? So she's going to where you were saying, hey, the way that I have been treated by white people make me feel just not safe around white people. So she's saying, how is that any different from anyone else?
If she was watching the whole explanation, what I was saying was, I can have more encounters and still not be hateful towards versus what I'm being told. It takes some of my friends who may be racist less encounters before they've come to the conclusion they don't like this type of minority.
Yeah.
I had a Mexican guy look at me at a club one day, and now I don't like Mexicans, says a friend.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Meanwhile, I can be looked at multiple times and still not be able to say I don't like white people because of it.
Yeah.
So I was saying that the tipping point seems to be a little light on what turns non-minorities racist versus minorities.
Yeah.
In response to where he's saying it's the same people who claim racism against them are the ones who are the most racist. Based off what?
Right. And Shayna says everyone has a life filter that forms perception, right or wrong. Yep. And you learned that through your family and a lot of that. And life experience is what forms those opinions. Right.
I think we've also addressed in responding to the letter.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting in these situations because we would never tell a woman who had experience with multiple people in their office of sexual harassment that she's actually the predator in the office.
Yeah.
It seems that only when you're the minority and you just bring attention to racist situations or bring attention to systemic racism or bring attention to things that need to be changed, are you then told that somehow you're still in the wrong for highlighting what's been happening to you? I can't control that a lady clutched her purse if I walked in Jewel. That's not
right. You had nothing to do with that.
I'm the racist one according to the letter in that equation.
Yeah.
How?
Right.
Historically, look at how much patience minorities have had to have versus what seems to strike the temper in the suburbs quite quickly.
Real quick. I mean, it's like gas to a flame.
Right.
All
right. So,
and I have to read this because, well, it's interesting. Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Nice says facts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's going on,
preach. Now, the next, was there a time that redlining existed as a policy? Yes. Does it exist as policy now? Not really.
When I read this, I'm glad that we talked about this in the green room because I read this. I legit chuckled and I was excited to see what you said about that.
Yeah.
You did not let me down.
Right. So you kind of answer your own question right there after the comma.
Right.
Not really.
The fact that you have to put a comma lets me further know that you know the truth. You just don't want to admit it.
Are you pregnant, ma'am? Not really. Well, do you have cancer? Not really.
really.
You got it or you don't, right? So
Is there or
What-
is it?
what that not really is saying is it's not as prevalent as it was back in the 60s
Right.
and 50s when they redlined. However, redlining is lending, really. It goes
Right.
towards the banks. However, it's still hard to get a decent mortgage in a lower or a higher minority driven area.
Right.
So even though we erase the lines,
Yeah.
not really. Right now, there are things. I'm a banker, and I lend money. That's what I do. So if anybody needs a good mortgage, no,
doing it. Absolutely.
The truth is we now have to fill things out. Hey, your ethnicity, your sex. Because it's still an issue, and the government still has to monitor this. Right? Yeah. Man, yeah, absolutely. It's still here. Big
What's going on
facts.
with that?
Yes. And truthfully, right? And that's why I say, not really means, yeah, absolutely.
Case in point, when we were looking at another facility, there's a gentleman who you met with Zoe. His wife is in real estate.
Yeah.
And we had another family who had large sum of income, some investors, and we're coming to being strategic. And his wife is white, and she says, well, for this part of the thing, let me head it up. Let me look like the buyer. Because I know things on this side on how it's going to go. Why would she have to say that?
Yeah.
If it doesn't exist? If it's a not really, why is it still so common?
Correct.
That we need to have the white figurehead in order to make sure that we get approved. Because it's in Algonquin.
It happens.
Which is by Hunt.
And hey, this is where I lend money.
Right.
And it's now I look at it as the lender and I say, we're going down this road. I don't care who you're,
Right.
Here's what I look at. Fair credit, fair lending, the whole works. That's me. Right. However, does my institution,
Right.
So that's what you need to look at. Now, it does exist, and there are lending. There are financial institutions who create a red line by having weird criteria as well.
Right.
They don't necessarily point, but I'm not giving you a mortgage unless your credit's here, right? At a certain way up here. Right now, it's fair because it doesn't matter.
Right.
You got to have that credit, right? But I know if I go over here into this community, very few will have that credit.
Right. I mean, I think what this person's trying to forget or downplay the fact is that as a country now, if you're going to do that systemically, you have to be smart enough to have it strategically hidden.
Yeah.
In the wording. Which is why a lot of times people have a lawyer look at things because, hey, this right here states that they're able to X, Y, Z openly towards you.
Yeah.
It's just in the wording that most people don't understand the jargon.
Yeah.
Also, systemically, we talked about this in the green room as well. What determines the value of property value? When blank moves into the neighborhood, your property value went down. Do you think that was minorities that said when more black people move into the neighborhood or more Hispanics move into the neighborhood that the property value goes down? Or is that some other system that said when you have X amount of minorities in your neighborhood, your property value decreases?
Yeah, you really want the Amish people to come in. They're clean people.
They're clean people.
Yeah, those farms are nice.
We literally, the real estate agent told us, Carpentersville. That's where it starts to get what?
Yeah.
Diverse, at least? Like,
But
when you start to have too many, your property value is going to get down. But that they didn't say, we don't want minorities in our neighborhood.
No.
They just told you as more minorities show up, your value will decrease.
Yeah. And guess what's happening now? Everybody's coming in from Chicago. Everybody's getting out of the city because of COVID.
The system put in place.
So, yeah, I mean, are the red lines prominent? Are they there on the map like banks used to? No, you are correct. They have erased those. Does it still exist?
Can you still see the cities that were formed due to redlining? Is there still consequences and things that are still carried on due to redlining?
Yeah.
That are still perpetuated? Yes.
And that bleeds into when we talk about the systemic, we're talking about the whole system. And then that bleeds into I can't fund my schools well enough because my property values and my property taxes are lower.
Right.
How do we fund schools in Illinois anyway? Right. Most of them are through those real estate taxes. But if I'm not getting much down here in real estate taxes,
right,
but I am out here, what school is going to get the preferential treatment? What school is going to have right the better equipment, the better computers, the better everything, right? So that's when we talk about systemic, it's the whole system.
Right.
It's not just it's the whole salad bar. It's not just the pieces you pick and choose, put on your plate, right? How's that? Good. That's a nice one, right? All right.
Discrimination is bad, regardless of who's being discriminated against, i.e., affirmative action.
Go ahead.
So what most people don't realize is how small a percentage of affirmative action actually makes a difference in society, actually makes a difference in the workplace. Case in point, we are a minority, so at 13%, you still have a very large percentage who's going to look like you and accept you for being you.
Yeah.
More so than the one-off as far as when it's me. Now, I will say yes, discrimination is wrong, whether or not you're discriminated, whoever is being discriminated, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever the case may be. I agree. Discrimination is wrong. However, you're really going to say that because for decades, hundreds of years or whatever, when you were allowed to get your way because of the color of your skin, that there had to be something put in place to finally allow someone like myself to get a position that I deserve to be in, that once that happens in a one-off, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But it was perfectly fine when it was happening for your benefit. For years.
Yeah.
For hundreds of years, that was fine with you. But even with that, I had a friend of mine who got accepted in U of I over a friend of mine who did not get accepted to U of I. The one who got accepted to U of I was African American. The one who did not get accepted to U of I was a white kid. He said that my friend got accepted because of affirmative action. Okay, cool. Well, where did the white kid still go? University of Iowa, which is still a great university. He's still going to get a fantastic education.
Yeah.
So at 18 years old, affirmative action, I guess if you want to call that, worked for him. Pat still went to Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay. When they get to the job place, who's probably going to get more likely to get the job? Pat.
Yeah.
When it comes to executive positions in that company, who's most likely to get an executive management position in that company? Pat. So this helped him slightly get an education. However, life is still going to work fantastically for this dude because of the color of his skin.
Yeah.
So miss me that this really put that much of an inconvenience on your life if you still know in the long run, your uncle owns the company, your neighbor runs the company, you're still going to get promoted faster than any other minority.
Sure.
Look at most big companies out there and show me what their higher
take a look at their board of directors.
What their board of directors, the hierarchy looks like. It doesn't look like me.
Right.
They may allow me to get my foot in the door.
Right. But
when it comes to those 6 and 7 figure incomes, it's not us.
Yeah. So, and here's what I want to tell people listening is we know that there are situations that, yes, and we know that many companies now have, people of color on their board of directors and in positions of, right. We know we're moving in the right direction. You don't need to give us an example. Hey, yep, we know that
one company has one.
Right. Yeah. That the CEO in charge of whatever for Chase is a brilliant African-American lady. We get it. They're out there. What he's saying is, again, 90% of the time, it's not where we at. Right. So I got this from Mary, and thanks for tuning in. And she sent it to me in a text because our technology limits the amount. And she says, I had an aha moment a few years ago after doing an event at the Boys and Girls Club in Chicago. I was telling a story about that day and a beautiful little girl that was my sidekick the entire day helping me. In the story, I felt the need to say, beautiful little black girl. And it clicked. Why did I feel the need to identify that? I realized without knowing it, I was seeing her different. It has forever changed my perspective. Her color should have never played a role in the story.
Mhm.
Right? Exactly. Yet, you felt the need to say that.
Yeah.
Or at least you used black. It wasn't the little colored girl. So, right. I joke. All right. I laugh.
No,
I joke.
no,
but true, right?
We talked about that.
Yeah.
My friend Jasmine's still being called the favorite colored nurse down in Pensacola, Florida. So, Jasmine, I appreciate your patience.
Hallelujah. 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 So I mean, and that's a great story right there. And Mary, if you catch her show on Mondays, you're going to see that she's Caucasian.
Right.
She's white chick, right? And that's the type of systemic that's there, right?
You're well spoken for a black person.
Right.
You talk white, pretty black, like stuff like that. It's almost not a Mary situation. I wasn't going that far, but I talk white almost indicates that black people aren't allowed to articulate themselves
Correct.
as unintelligent. That's only a characteristic of white people. Please don't say that.
Correct.
Especially unintelligent black people. Very insulting.
Well, I mean, listen, doctors speak South Asian. They have that South Asian accent.
Right.
They're pretty smart.
Pretty smart.
They don't sound too much like white folk.
But we're told you speak, oh my God, you speak so well for an African American. What the? Oh, wait, what? What do you mean? Because I don't sound like this.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't sound like 107.5 all the time. That means.
Hey, we love WGCI. All right. See, I know. I'm down with that.
Down with that. People should be judged on the merit. Too many cases that the media reports to cover are done so with wrong information so as to promote an agenda. An example is the Breonna Taylor case. Yeah. The media narrative is that she was an innocent victim that was working as an EMT at the time of the incident. The media also stated that she wasn't listed on the warrant. Both were not true. Not only had she not been an EMT for over a year, the do not rehire box was checked. I'm really glad that he put that in there because that was a big concern of mine. No. The warrant not only had her address, but also contained her name and social security number.
Okay. So, absolutely right. Several media outlets did portray Breonna as an EMT.
Right.
Now, okay, I mean, if you get that degree or you get that certification, you're an EMT.
Whether or not you're still currently
employed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm a deacon. I've been ordained. I am a deacon. That's why people call me Deke.
Right.
I'm a deacon. I'm not practicing in a church right now, but I'm still a deacon, right? And
yeah, that's what we're about to cover.
Yeah.
Why is the focus on her career, not the fact that she was still murdered? We're getting there. Yes.
I'm a slow boil. No, I'm sorry. Okay. Wonderful. She may not have been the most perfect person. It was her apartment. I would guess that her name has to be on the warrant because it was her apartment, from my understanding. I'm guessing that, so there's no mix-up on the warrant. I don't fill out warrants. I've never looked at one, so I don't know how it's supposed to do is to make sure we got the right person. This is the social security number that we have for her.
Right.
That would be my guess, right? Fact of the matter is, she was innocent. She got caught in crossfire and died.
Right.
She was not armed. She was not armed.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, it happened. It's not right. However, if I, no matter as a deacon, go out and I kill somebody innocently, what's the letter of the law then supposed to be? Can I just say, well, they didn't check the rehire box? I'm okay.
That rehire box was in check, so that gives me the right.
Right? They didn't.
The authority to kill a person
Hey,
in their sleep.
you know what? She was in the wrong place, wrong time. The standard and why people are upset, I believe,
Right.
is an innocent person got killed by the police, and there was a different set of standards for the way that was handled.
I mean, look at recent events. You can shoot up a store and still get apprehended.
Yeah.
But if you're in your sleep in your own apartment, you can be murdered. And like what Melissa's saying, that it's sad that people are looking for her faults and have a reason to shoot her.
Well, and understand why, because that makes me feel better.
Right. Because we don't have to address the possibility of some inconsistencies. Why is this person apprehended by this person's murder? But when you look at the case and you find out that she was a soft target, meaning it wasn't, a kingpin drug lord where we need to shoot down because they got guard dogs and cameras.
Right.
To have a soft target, they could have surrounded the apartment and said, hey, we have you surrounded. Come out with your hands up.
Could have.
Because the paperwork said soft target.
Yeah.
I'm
a soft target.
Oh, yeah. We don't look at the inconsistencies of out of multiple neighbors. Only one of them said they heard the police say police. And it was on the third interview that person said so.
Yeah.
We don't look at the fact that the police chief said that none of his police officers had security footage or body cams. But there's a photograph of multiple officers at the crime scene with body cams on. But your focus is the rehire box?
Well, I think the focus of this statement is I think he's mad at the media for being inconsistent.
But not the police for being inconsistent.
But not the police
how
for being
they apprehend
inconsistent.
certain suspects and murder other ones.
Sure.
We need to make the media the bad guy in this situation, not the people who continue to give the media information or ammunition.
Well, sure, and it's much like right now with all these mass shootings going on, which is sad. The one common thing is the gun. So people are crying about gun laws and whatever.
Right.
The one common thing is the people. There's victims, and there's people who created the victims.
Mm-hmm.
That's the common, right?
Right.
And what a lot of people are saying is not every common denominator, not every person gets treated the same.
Some are offered Burger King after murdering people. Others are 14-year-old in the playground and get murdered.
Yeah, right. So, and what we're looking for when we speak equality is
equal treatment.
Equal. That's the first part of equality, right? And it doesn't matter whether it's me pulling the trigger and I drop the gun and go, "Oh, sorry, my bad," and they handcuff me and walk me away. Or if it's Phil pulling the trigger, dropping the gun, raising his hands and being shot 7 times. Okay? What we're saying is
no body cam footage.
Again, conveniently, the body cams
are turned off.
Out there. Now, the other thing is, as we grow up in this incident, we talked a little bit about this in the green room, is why do you keep popping over to a place you're not supposed to be? There was one of the police officers who, hey, listen, I've been in an armed robbery at a bank, and my job was to make sure nobody talked to anybody. Right. So we can't corroborate a story.
Right.
That you're going to. So when the FBI, the police ask me, you're going to get my story, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Phil to make up a story.
Right.
However, one of the police officers in the Breonna Taylor case kept walking over to where he shouldn't have been.
Right.
Now, we don't know why.
Because another unit was the one that stopped him, saying, how this procedure, you're supposed to be over here. You're not supposed to be at the scene of the crime anymore. Why do you keep coming back? This is the third time I've had to talk to you.
And then what happens is we run into the blue wall of silence.
Oh, that's next.
It's coming up. See how I segue there?
I see. I didn't do it there.
But listen, my mama, God love her, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. If I keep going over and I look suspicious,
It's probably
something's going on, right? I got to, hey, it's got to be, and what would happen? What would happen if it was me and I kept walking over there? What would the police do? They'd tase me, they'd drop me, they'd put me in the back of a car. They would make sure that I couldn't look suspicious. I couldn't go over there.
Tamper with the crime scene.
You couldn't tamper, right? However, it happened, and they even brought it up in court that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
All right, we got 15. Let's.
Yeah. Which one you go with?
No. So the next one. So
the I look at the outrage.
Yep.
So the comment is this from a listener. I look at the outrage of the black community when a criminal is killed by police, and I have questions. Number one of the questions is, where the heck is the outrage when a drug dealer or gangbanger kills a black child in their community? Now, let me. I absolutely am, Phil. Absolutely love the feedback we're getting from these listeners, and I get it that you're not here to defend yourself. You're always welcome to come on to the show, and we're not cutting anything out. I absolutely appreciate you for sending us this, because this is what's healthy and helps conversations. And we're not trying to hang anybody. We're not trying to prove anybody wrong. We're just addressing
things.
Right. So these are our opinions. These are right.
It's an interesting segue though to go from the Breonna Taylor case to when a criminal is killed, because she was not a criminal.
Right. So
her ex-boyfriend was a drug dealer. She was not. She was killed.
Yeah.
Ahmaud Arbery was not a criminal. He was killed. In a situation where Floyd has a counterfeit $20 bill, he was killed. Want to call him a criminal? Okay. Check the cars and lockers of most high schools in Fox Valley. When you find those drugs, those kids are what you like to call criminals, according to your standard, because they're doing anything illegal by the law.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that they would all be apprehended. They would all see a fair trial. None of them would be murdered because of it. If you're a criminal, cool. That's why they have the judicial system.
Yeah.
To address criminals.
Yeah.
They don't just kill these people. And I really, during the time, like the Ahmaud Arbery, like when the gentleman who was murdered in his apartment in Dallas by the police officer was not a criminal.
Yeah.
So I'm really intrigued of his standard of criminal when it's an African American versus, again, the mass shooters who are not African Americans who are apprehended. Yeah. Okay. Where is the outrage when a drug dealer or gangbanger is kills a black child in their community? Are you in those communities? Because when that happens in those communities, there's a lot of outrage in those communities.
So yeah, Ben says, how do you know they are criminal? Well, I think that's what he says in the number. So this person who said it says, hey, here's a situation.
Okay.
A gangbanger or a drug dealer, right? Why do over 90% of black people refuse to turn over a black criminal so that their community is made more safe? Now,
cute.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, right. So why do over 90% of black, and I can't answer this because I'm not black,
right?
So I'm going to let you do this.
I'm very curious where he found that stat.
Yeah, why do over 90% of black people refuse to turn over a black criminal so that their community is made more safe?
I really am curious where he found this stat, because it seems more like personal opinion, stated as fact, than an actual fact. As far as percentage,
I tried to find that percentage, and I couldn't.
Right.
Right.
Real quick, what Shana says: let's say they were criminals. It's not the place of the police to decide the whole innocent until proven guilty thing.
Right.
Exactly. That's why the law and the justice system is in place, so that the police officers shouldn't act as executioners. 90% of the... Okay.
Deep breath.
Oh, my woosah. So I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Because of the level of hypocrisy, and you touched on it a minute ago. This person is finding frustration or looking down upon African Americans for... Let's just go with 90. whatever made up stat he found, 90%.
Yeah.
He's upset that 90% of African Americans, in his opinion, do not cooperate with police. Ben, you know I'm about to, bro. But you look past the fact that 100% of officers do not talk to police as well. So it's wrong when blacks don't talk to police, and that's 90%.
Yeah.
But it's perfectly okay when 100% of police officers don't talk to police officers about police officers to, like, how is that okay with you? You literally have a blue wall of silence, a code in the way of you guys operating that states you do not snitch. To use a street term, you guys don't snitch on your own people.
That's right.
So, as we touched on before, when my friends or family who are on this side of the, moral code say don't snitch, is because they're doing illegal stuff that they don't want brought to certain authorities. So when you tell me that you don't snitch, it's safe to conclude that you're doing things that you don't want brought to authorities. You literally have a code where you can't dime out if you do plant drugs on an innocent person, if you do falsify information, if you do have ill conduct or racist activity towards a pedestrian. I'm not allowed to say I saw Kent Jones call Ben the N-word on a traffic stop. I have to sit then quietly in a car, knowing that Kent just called another African American the N-word, knowing that Kent planted drugs in Marcus's car, and now Marcus is going to do.
And let's not even go there. Let's just say we stop the car, and I reach up, and I turn off the dash cam.
I can't say anything.
You cannot.
If shots are fired,
guess what happens? I guess there was a malfunction with the dash cam. I don't know. I stopped. And as my partner,
right,
you go, it was working earlier.
And that's all I'm allowed to say. And let's say that a witness from their home takes a picture or recording. Your body cam malfunction too. We didn't have body cam, although there was photographs and video that show you with the body cam, that show the dash cam. I can't say anything. So if you're worried about percentages, please worry about 100% blue wall of conduct, blue wall of silence. Right. Before you talk to me about 90%.
Now, it's unwritten. It's not. You're not going to see it in the police academy handbook, right? Known. But police officers have also said, and many of them have quoted, we're the biggest, baddest gang out there.
Why do you think they say that?
Why would they say that? Why would they say we're the biggest, baddest gang in America?
Because we're told in America gangs are bad, right? Gangs do bad things, right? Gangs aren't the good Samaritans, right? That's what we're told.
And
they pride themselves and joke about that. So
as if we want to do the but that cop's on the take. Yeah, but that cop's on the take. Yeah, but that cop took evidence. Yeah, but that cop. We could come up with all these instances with the buts, right?
Right.
And guess what? Why do they not turn over black? You know what? I gotta believe that they do. You talked about gloves. You were talking about
gloves up, guns down.
Guns down.
When you ask most people who bring up the crime rate in Chicago and talk about, why are there not any outrage on violence in these communities, especially if you're in the suburbs around here, my response to those people is, do you know about gloves up, guns down? Most people will say, no, I haven't heard of gloves up, guns down, which means you can focus on crime down in Chicago, but you don't focus on anti-violence organization and events that happen in Elgin once a month to promote non-violence in those communities. You overlook the hundreds of thousands of events that are in place that communities do come behind, that communities do support to try to combat violence in their own communities. So how is it that you know all about this but don't know about any of the anti-violent organizations in your own backyard? Because you're not looking for those.
Right.
Because if you focus on those and you found hundreds of thousands of these, then you'd have some things to answer amongst yourself. She says, Deflect.
Yeah. So thanks, Shana. Why do you deflect when these questions bother you? So she's saying, why are you bringing up the blue wall of silence? Right. There aren't many places to get an opportunity to ask people of color for many of us. I'm interested in your perspective, not the but about this. So
No. There was not a but. What I said is, where is he finding his information? Because this information is opinion. If he were saying that this is a true statement that I have found, then cool. But he's saying a fabricated number versus real information. And even if he wants to say that number, I have white, Asian, Hispanic. That just seems to be a even percentage towards everybody.
And Shana, please, if you have questions, send them to Kent at 216thenet.com.
I've offered Phil Wallace on Facebook. Have a conversation with me.
We'd absolutely love that. And so, what I believe what I'm hearing you say, Phil, is 90%. Where'd you get that stat? Because there are a lot of people who turn in a lot of people in the black community if they're doing illegal and bad
if we're
things.
saying that blacks do not, not cooperate, from what I understand is a lot of races don't cooperate with police on that level. It's not just a black thing, despite popular belief.
Yeah.
And what I'm also saying was, if we're going to focus on not cooperating with police, I don't see why it wouldn't be a focal point that the police officers don't cooperate with police.
Well, sure. So
because you hear about a lot more African Americans snitching on other African Americans more so than you hear about police officers snitching on police officers.
Right. And when you you don't really know what happens out there. Listen, is that cop on the take from that drug dealer? So I'm going to turn in this drug dealer, and they go, all right, we're going to put you in the back of the car. We're going to take you down to the station, have a cup of coffee, and laugh. Right. Yeah, I was Jones. It was the Joneses who turned your shit in. What? Right? I mean, so it's not as simple as of a question. I don't think is. I mean, there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle, and there's a lot of give and take, and the people in those communities are tight knit. They're tighter knit than you probably think, and that's what you're saying. There are hundreds and thousands of groups, gloves down, gloves up, hands down. I was like, I've never heard of that. Right. And so it's interesting. And I think that's what Phil is saying is there 90% a really high number. And where did you get the information? Right. Why do the majority of blacks think it's okay for a black criminal to kill a law enforcement officer?
Where are you getting your information?
You don't think that a majority of
not at all
African Americans think that it's okay?
Literally none of my black friends have said it's okay to kill a police officer. And I'm going to wager that I have more black friends than most people who are on or listening to this.
Sure.
None of them have said it's okay to kill a police officer.
Yeah.
None of them. So why do majority of blacks think it's okay for a black criminal to kill a law enforcement officer? It's never been the case. The only question that you'll really ever hear is, why is it okay for police officers to kill unarmed black people?
Now, again, we go into what you hear in the news media and the rallies and, fuck the police and da-da-da, right? So, I mean, there is a narrative out there.
Bennett, we're reading a letter that a viewer sent in, and in the in the letter, it says, why do majority of blacks think it's okay for a black criminal to kill law enforcement officers? And I'm letting them know, none of the homies think that way.
Ben, come on. Hey, you can be part of the show, Ben. Come on in, buddy. I mean, whatever you need. Yeah, you could.
No one has ever said that it's okay for police. Now, what you will have, and I will say this, you will have people who are getting frustrated. You're having people who are getting frustrated of, let's let the justice system work this way out.
Yeah.
And the police officer is acquitted. And this police officer is released. And this police officer snuck out. And you have people getting to the boiling point of, I'm not going to be another person on a t-shirt. I'm not going to be a hashtag.
Sure. Now, and everybody, that's what the bridge is about, is developing conversations. Shana, absolutely love your input.
Good.
Absolutely love your questions. absolutely love, you say, hey, why do you deflect? That's how we learn. That's what we talk about, right?
Right.
And the some of these comments, I absolutely adore the people who sent them in.
Right.
Okay. But we want to. This is what we want to do. Give us a chance to talk, not comment on Facebook, not whatever. Let's open a dialogue because that's how things change, right? And I can't take Phil's opinion if I don't understand where Phil's coming from. Right? I mean, I could hear him and I could walk away and go, he's so out of touch, right? He could do the same to me. He doesn't know. He never heard of, gloves up, guns down. He didn't know anything. Well, no, I don't. You're right. I mean, listen, in Wondertucky, we don't.
Right.
There's dare. We got dare for the kids in school, right? To get off drugs, right? So I mean, when you take a look at it, that's what this whole show is about. It's not to. I hope it does upset some people because you're going to get uncomfortable and want to speak about it, right? And listen, Shayna, Phil will listen. This guy's got the biggest heart that I know. He'll grab a cup of coffee with you, and talk one-on-one. That's a beautiful thing. I've done that with him. I've done that with some of his friends so that I can understand better. I mean, I spent a couple hours, with Zoe and JR when all this stuff broke out because my 24-year-old daughter is like, Dad, you're the biggest racist I know. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not racist. So I have to sit and I have to now walk in the shoes of the people who are. Who feel that racism.
I mean, but we've thrown out that invitation plenty of times.
Absolutely. So. And you're more than welcome to come in. We could share a link. We can get you on. This absolutely.
People continue to deflect the invitation to have a conversation.
Yep.
That should be a bigger focal point.
Yep. So, why do people support the organizations Black Lives Matters when on their website one of their main objectives is the destruction of the nuclear family? And I didn't research this enough. I can't speak on it. There are, and we've talked about this before. There are things about the organization Black Lives Matters. I think,
the company side.
Yeah, on the company side, right? Do I think that Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. Now, it's like Kleenex or it's like Nikes or soda or whatever. You go down Texas, everything is a Pepsi, right, or a Coke or something.
But BLM is BET, right? BET is not black owned.
Right.
Black Lives Matter is not black owned. So blacks are held accountable for a non-black owned organization that's taking out on black people. So the faults of the company side are being taken out on the people side. I've openly said there's things about the company side of BLM that's not black owned and what they put that we're not in control of as we as saying black people.
Right.
I'm not writing anything of what our agenda is and what we stand for. That's not us.
Right.
That's an individual speaking on behalf of. That is not a representation of.
And listen. Now explain about the nuclear family. So a lot of times you and I talked about, Phil, and when you're dealing with race and an uncomfortable topic, I give you a statement with nothing behind it.
Right.
Okay, I love the question. Is destruction of the nuclear family. Because I find that the nuclear family what? Right? Why is that all of a sudden a big deal? So a conversation is help me understand what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Don't just give me a statement and move on. That tells me you're frustrated. Right.
I mean, and then how old of a company is BLM? 5, if
14, 15. I mean, not years. I mean, that's when it came in, 2014, 2015.
So if we're really, truly, deeply concerned about the nuclear family, we can't blame it on a 5-year company. The nuclear family of the black community has been institutionally attacked long before BLM.
Long before.
We just don't put the same amount of efforts that we will as far as condemning BLM as we do to any other institution that's out there that's been known to.
Long before.
Any other system that's been known to attack the nuclear family, especially in the African American community. the same effort for whatever reason, although we're not racist, we don't have that same energy to attack those companies as we do BLM.
Yeah.
Even though there's more factual information behind those companies.
Now we're right on the backside of the hour, and I listen. This, as I said, I know that the individual who sent this has experienced, racism. Right? I wasn't there. That's what this person has told me. Now,
Right.
I do like this though. I don't believe that today we have systemic racism. We're not going to jump into that because we don't have time.
Right.
I believe that there are small groups of people and individuals that are racist. I truly believe that a lot of the problems that exist between Black Americans and white Americans are due to the behavior of each. And I agree. But that's a pretty good statement there. And I think it's the unwillingness to hear.
Right.
It's the unwillingness to go, maybe I'm wrong. Right? So I've got to be angry, or I'm a little embarrassed that you're going to find that I'm racist, so I'm going to put something over my head, a white pillowcase, because good Lord knows, I don't want the church to know that I'm lynching people, right? I mean, so listen,
Like they don't recognize the pastor's voice.
yeah, whoops, so yeah. There is that, but there also is a time in life where you have to say, I'm wrong, I've been wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you hurt. I'm sorry that your family's been through this. I'm sorry. Listen, my grandfather, he came over on a boat in 1913 or something like that, right?
Right.
And so we didn't own slaves. It doesn't mean that Phil's family and his heritage hasn't hurt.
Right.
It doesn't excuse their hurt. It doesn't excuse their struggle just because I'm third generation here in America, right? So you got to understand that's what racism is. And until we have the ability to look at each other, respect the grind, the gross, respect that perhaps their family had people hung in trees, drugged behind horses, cars, and that was 10 years ago. Until then, we really can't bridge that.
Or continuously still hear comments. It's not 10 years ago.
Right.
But if we're going to listen to each other, we can't have super high percentages condemning Black people and then have no belief or belittle the amount of racism that those Black people encounter. Can't say I don't believe it exists. It doesn't exist. If thousands of people are telling you proof that it exists, we can't say that it's only small groups that provoke, because what you're saying is both of our behavior, but I'm upset for a little reason. I'm not upset because multiple times a year for decades.
Multiple times a month.
Multiple times that you're pushed, provoked, hear comments, things of that nature. Otherwise, I'm still just irrational and just overreacting for no reason. If you're going to listen, and you want to know about the behavior of each, part of the behavior is what stems those behavior.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to accept that if multiple people are telling you the same thing from across the country, you might want to start to listen. And we can't downplay. You can't downplay their justification. You can't downplay their experience, and then hype up and fabricate the numbers to condemn them. Not if you're trying to bridge.
Yeah. And folks, absolutely, absolutely love the time and very humbled that y'all would send. Shayna, I'll get that. Wow, my pain hurts more than yours. My experience is so much more than yours. My behaviors are due to how I have been treated. Y'all need to change, and I'm not angry. Yeah, yeah. No, Shayna, and you're right. I don't know, and that's why I say let's open a conversation.
Gladly have a conversation.
And you're right. That's why I say I can only approach life and approach things from my experiences.
Right.
It feels the same way, and you're the same way.
Door's always open.
Shayna, come on, be part of this because I would love to hear it. Absolutely. So thanks for getting stuck in the net, everybody. Next week, I don't know. You're going to be here. I'm on vacation. So, yeah. I'm going to be down in Florida.
Nice.
Yeah. So we may not be here. But Phil may. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Tune in and you'll see it go live. Thanks, Phil. I want to thank everybody for being part of this. I want to thank people for the information that they gave me, and absolutely love that hopefully we're touching some hearts and changing some lives, and we'll keep at it until we bridge the civil tension.
Yes, sir.
So.
Love you guys.